Hi, everybody. Welcome to week 7. Can you believe it? It's like this semester is just cruising along. So this week we are reading chapter 6 in our textbook, which is all about using segmentation to target and segment our customers. And it's an essential part, kind of the beginning and most important part of marketing, understanding who your customers are. That often comes even before product development. It's just knowing your customers, understanding a need that isn't currently being fulfilled is kind of the root start of a lot of businesses. So in the chapter, be sure to read it. It's chapter 6, but you'll hear a lot about the concept of how we target specific customers. So I thought I would just take a second and explain it really briefly. You do need to read the chapter, but I'll try to kind of sum it up so that it is something you can take with you as you work at your own jobs. So essentially what happens is we have, if you picture like an upside down funnel, right? So at the very top of the funnel is anyone who could ever be a customer. The total market is at the top. But what we're doing is trying to kind of narrow that down. And at the tip of that funnel is your target market. So the way that we go from all to very specific group of target audience is by filtering based on certain variable categories. And you'll read about those in the book. And one is demographic segmentation. So that's by gender, by income, by ethnicity, by education. Those are demographic ways to segment a potential market. Another is geographic. That's literally your location. So your zip code, your region, the specifics of the area that a certain group might be in. Another is psychographic, and that gets a little more interesting. That's things like your lifestyle, your attitude, your interests. And if you think about companies who do that really well, social media companies, like if you think about Facebook and their ability to capture what your interests are, what your attitudes and opinions are about things, you can imagine how Facebook sells that data and that information, as well as lots of other companies. But Facebook is kind of well known, and we can all imagine what that looks like because we follow certain brands, we pay attention and like certain posts that are related to our interests, our lifestyle, and our attitude. That's psychographic segmentation. And then another is behavioral segmentation, which Facebook also and other social media programs also really help with. But the difference between behavioral and psychographic is behavioral is what you do, how you act based on your interests, lifestyles, and attitude. So just because you post pictures of the outdoors and you follow outdoor programs, it doesn't necessarily mean you will buy hiking boots, for example. But if you have purchased a hiking stick and a hiking backpack, that's behavioral, and we can assume pretty confidently that at some point you might buy hiking shoes. So that's an example of behavioral as opposed to psychographic. Psychographic is what you like, what you seem to have interests in, and your attitudes about things. Behavioral is things you actually have done. So if you think about anyone who could potentially be a customer, segmenting by demographic, geographic, psychographic, and then behavioral, now you're getting to a very specific market that could and should be something that you know a lot about and can really help you to fine tune and target a specific market for your business. So we'll learn a little bit more about that in the chapter, but I am also going to share with you today another interview that I did with a woman named Tina Reynolds. Tina owns a marketing and design company based here in Sacramento. And I'm pulling up a list quickly of some of the students, some of you who are maybe going to really find this particularly interesting. So Tina has been operating her marketing company since 1992. She has a team of 19 employees, and they specialize in things like marketing campaigns, graphic design, website design, video production, and social media management. All really hot topics in the world of marketing. And I specifically sought out Tina because I heard from some of you on our first post in this class that maybe small business is something you're interested in, and Tina runs a very successful small business in Sacramento. So interesting for those folks that are interested in any small business. And then anyone particularly interested in design. Some of you said interior design, some of you said graphic design, advertising. Those types of things are really what I think you can learn a little bit from Tina on. So I had a couple of you in mind. I'm sorry if I'm messing your names up, but Ian Coppage, Andrea Diaz, Katie Capello, Tanner Steifstad, I'm sorry, Tanner, Natalie Ann Brewer, Lisa Cox, and Andrea Gonzalez. I had you in mind for this interview, so I hope you find it particularly interesting. So Tina talks a lot about things we're learning in class, but particularly about the importance of understanding and focusing on very specific customer groups. In fact, she gives me a link, which I'm going to share with you, about training programs that teach you as a marketer to think about and totally embody your customers' wants and desires, even at kind of a human level. So it's interesting, and I'll share some of those with you. But let's take a look at my interview with Tina as we are thinking more about targeting and segmenting our specific marketing groups.
I'm Tina Reynolds. I'm the founder and president of Uptown Studios. I started Uptown Studios in 1992. Prior to that, I had another business from 1976 to 92 that did all corporate work. I mean, we did production for Coca-Cola and big ad agencies, and I hated it. It was just making money for people that didn't need to make so much money. And so in 92, I started Uptown Studios with a intention to create change. And in fact, that's our tagline, Designs for Social Change. So I started just as a graphic designer. It was me working out of my house with my kids. And in 1999, I went, I'm not going to have any time off unless I move into a space and hire some employees. So in 99, I rented a space and hired my first employee, and we started website. So in 92, I did a lot of print stuff because there was no internet. Not in 92, it wasn't taken off yet. There was no social media. It was yellow page ads and print ads in magazines, Sacramento Bee ads. It was like everything was print. So I've been through this evolution. In fact, I got my first Macintosh in 1983. It was one of the little tiny Macs with the little tiny screens. So in 92, I really got involved in nonprofits because I wanted to have nonprofits as my main clients, because I really like working with people that have a passion for what they do, and you find that in the nonprofits. Then started in 99 was web, 2007 was social media. That's when Facebook opened up, and as soon as they opened up, I hired a social media person, and we started training people because everybody was afraid. Nobody wanted to do social media. We built a full-blown marketing department. In 2012, we added a video department and Google Ads people in SEO, and so it's like we've just been adding, and now we have 19 people, and it only took 29 years to get here, and we bought our building.
Oh, awesome. Okay. What a cool story. What an inspiring story. I think many of the students in class are interested, as I mentioned, in working for a marketing firm in some sort of graphic design, but there's also a pocket of them that really want to start their own business. So it's nice to hear that it's possible, right? Sometimes it feels out of reach. Yeah.
And, cool. And hopefully there's people around like me that can help you so it doesn't take 29 years to get there.
Even if it does, you were living the dream, right?
Right, you're living the dream. I love every day. Every day I love what I do.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, I'm bouncing to our next question, Tina. So what are some of the most common marketing strategies that companies use today? And what do you do for your clients to help them stand above the crowd?
So I think some of the most common marketing today is campaign marketing. So it is identifying one particular thing that you want to push out to the public. and then designing a campaign around that. And then with the campaign, it might include a landing page on your website so that if you're doing some Google ads, it's driving to that landing page. Let's say I have a campaign that I want to increase video clients. I want to increase the number of video clients for Uptown Studios. So I'll create some Google ads and a landing page that's just talking about why it's important for you to have video, why it's important on social media. I'll talk about all of the highlights on that landing page, and all my Google ads will drive there. All my social media ads will drive to that page. And that's because I don't want to drive them to my home page because it's hard to find where to go next. If people are interested in video, I want to take them right to video, not to everything else. They'll see everything else after they see that, but I want to get them in where they need to be. So we're talking about very narrow niches. So I'm not going to advertise to the big general public. I'm going to advertise to nonprofits that have an event coming up. Or we know that Big Day of Giving is coming up in May. And I might do a Big Day of Giving how-to video, how to prepare, and I'll give it away. Because what we all want to do is keep top of mind. I want you, if you're thinking of doing something in advertising and marketing, I want you to think of Uptown Studios. So it's like this never-ending, we're here, let me help you, how can I help you, what can we do, here's a free way to do this, here's a free way to do that. This niche marketing, smaller target audiences, and campaigns.
Yeah, that's interesting. We're talking about in class marketing plans. So that almost feels like, and you tell me if I'm wrong, it almost feels like one component of a larger plan. Would you say that?
Yes, absolutely. So you might have your big marketing plan, and one of your tactics is to have all these campaigns. And with each campaign, you want to write a strategy, which is based on your marketing plan. So the strategy is very particular. It's like, I need to drive more traffic and get more calls to action for video, right? So it's like you've got your big plan and your small strategies that you're working in your campaigns. And we'll have like 10 campaigns going at the same time.
And so if this is something common, if this is kind of a trend, which I can attest to the fact that it absolutely is, when I wear my other hat outside of professor, campaigns are a important component of what we do as well. Mm-hmm. So what would you say helps you, or what do you do to help your clients stand out in terms of running kind of mini promotions like that? Are there any tactics that you use across the board? Anything you could talk about there?
Well, the things that we really do is identifying the audience. We do a lot of human-centered design, and this is really important for you and your students. I don't know if you've ever heard of IDEO, IDEO.org. It is a place where people learn how to do human-centered design. Human-centered design is where we would have a focus group, and the people that are invited are maybe 20 to 30-year-olds that are starting a family, and we want to design a campaign that's going to get them to take better care of their babies, right? So the focus group, we have them, and with human-centered design, we really lean in and create empathy with the target audience. We don't come up with the campaign. They tell us what kind of campaign will touch them. And then we take that information and then we create a campaign around that. So a lot of the work that we do, everybody at Uptown Studios has been trained in human-centered design. And it changes your life. It's about how do you listen to a group and how do you create empathy with others, which is so important in life, but we apply it to work. There's also a place called Acumen, ACCUMEN.org, and they have free trainings where they can give you a human-centered design certificate. Now, if you're applying for a job and you have a certificate in this human-centered design, you're going to pop up to the top of my list because not everybody has it, and it's something that many people are using.
Okay. That's
So
great.
there's some tips. There's some tips.
Yeah, I'll put those links below so kids can check that out. I think that's awesome. It's almost like you're describing, you're saying human-centered design. It's kind of customer-centered design. That's how I would describe it.
But we even go deeper because it is about behavior change, and it is about what your target audience is seeing that's important. I can never be a 15-year-old black boy.
Oh God.
But I can bring 15-year-old black boys into the target audience area, and they can teach me what is important to them. So it really teaches you how to listen, how to take copious notes, how to have fun, because the more fun you have in these focus groups, the more people are open and creative to share. So it's a whole technique, and it's very interesting.
That's cool. I'm going to check that out too. That sounds really interesting. And as you said, good for life, period.
It's good for life. I mean, I use it in my life.
Yeah. Awesome. So can you talk to us for just a minute, Tina, about anything that has changed in marketing during the pandemic?
Oh, a bunch. So the pandemic happened on March 12th of 2020 for us. We all went remote. We did some spin. It's like everybody was like chasing their tails, like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Right? So for a month, I mean, it was the first week the team had their laptops that they were working on. The next week they took their desktops home. The next week they took their office chairs. The next week they took their desks. So that they were all set up, because then by the time the second month happened, we knew it was going to last for a while. So we had to get everybody set up. So as soon as the 2 months went by, we went, we need to help people write, we call it a tragedy strategy. If you can say it, you can do it. So it is, what do you do now? And you can't just keep spinning. And what we found was many of the small businesses and the nonprofits were just spinning out of control. It's like people like Meals on Wheels had so much that they needed to do suddenly, because people didn't have access to grocery stores. They were overwhelmed. So what we did for them is we donated a marketing strategy, a 3 to 6 month marketing strategy with tactics on what are the next steps that you have to do to get you through this at least 6 months. So COVID really made us see that there were some emergency strategies that we needed to create for some of the companies that we work with to help them get their feet back on the ground, understand this is going to last for a long time, and start acting normal. Whatever that normal is, it's not even the new normal, it is the normal today. And so that really helped. Marketing was really important during this time, and there's a lot of people that are still spinning. Because it became a tragedy. You know, it's like, what do you do if you're the executive director and someone in your family dies and you can't show up at work? Well, that's a tragedy. You have to have a plan for that. Who's going to cover you while you're gone? It's all of those things.
It's almost a combined marketing and kind of crisis planning for companies, really, because it's keeping the engine running while also just solving or putting out fires, right? Kind of left.
Right. Lots of fires to put out. And how do you continue to be on that trajectory where you're continuing to grow? Even though it's smaller, you still are in the growth and you're not losing.
Yeah. I work at Visit California during the week, and we are still, I would say, spinning in the travel industry. It's just
it's how do you punt? It's like, so a focus group, in that case, a focus group would be really good. It's like, how do you set up travel for people that can't travel? You know, we had a travel industry client, and what we did is we promoted all of these museum trips that you can do virtually. You can go through the Louvre virtually, and you can point yourself in, you know, it's all these 3D. So we help them set up some things like that they could go to, and really keeping your name on the front of people's minds.
Yeah, it's an interesting challenge for sure.
Yeah.
So you mentioned early on that you started in graphic design, you started and kind of honed in on website building and building of a brand online. Can you just talk about how graphic design in particular is a part of the larger marketing plan? And then also, maybe it sounds simple, but would love to hear your thoughts on how website design also fits into a larger marketing plan as well.
Yeah, graphic design is you're look and feel in your brand, and it's like I have a personal brand with the bow ties,
Yeah.
and it works well with my whole business because we get to be creative and do what the hell we want.
Yeah.
You're creative; you can do what you want, right? Um, so the graphic design is really important to have some good design branding, and having a graphic designer that understands what branding is. They know what a style guide is. You know how to use the style guide and not shift from it, because brand shift is something designers like to shift brands, and you should not. If there's a style guide and a branding guide, you need to follow it for a reason. And that's because you want to have a consistent look and feel so that people really recognize you. And websites, what does it start with? A website starts with design. So if you're a graphic designer, you should be dabbling in web design. You should be dabbling in UX UI so that you understand what the target audience is, where do people look on a site and why do they look there, where is a good placement for a button. It's not, I think that if designers don't have web experience, they're missing an opportunity to understand the visitor perspective. You don't design because you like it. You design it for the target audience. That's something that's really important. If your target audience is maybe you're working for a company that sells dachshund jewelry. Well, you need to understand who those dachshund owners are and why they're a special little group, and you have to design so that you're engaging dachshund owners. It's not about you being a good designer. You have to be a good designer, but you have to be a good designer for them. So that's where the human-centered design comes in, because you have to be a good listener. So it's all about good design, but the designer needs to understand that you're not designing for yourself. If you're designing for yourself, you're an artist. If you're designing for others, you're a graphic designer. And it's such an important, you make all the decisions in the world. You decide what kind of packaging something goes in. Are you going to choose a big package like this for a little product like this, or are you going to try to get it down so that it is recyclable, and you're using soy-based inks, and you're thinking of all of the things that are important to the world, climate change and composition, and I mean it's all of that. Graphic designers need to think of all of that.
Yeah, great. Can you talk? We haven't talked about style guides. Can you just explain that really briefly? What is a style guide?
Okay, a style guide has your final logo. It has the ways that you can use the logo. It'll usually have a color logo and a black and white logo and a reversed out logo. So if the logo that you've designed doesn't work in all those three areas, then you have to redesign it, because there's always going to be a need for it to be a white logo on a black background, right? You're always going to have some way to take an icon from the logo and put it on a thumb drive, or on the back of your phone. That's a little 1-inch circle, and you can't put the whole horizontal logo on there, so you have to find, it's like the icon on Facebook or Instagram, your logo. So many people put their logo and the words are extending, you can't read it. That's why you need an icon, something that represents you. It's part of the logo design now. So you have your logo page and uses, how to not stretch it. You can use it this way or you can use it this way, and you have to show people how to use it so that they're not shifting your brand at all. You'll have your main colors, and they're usually 3 or 4 colors, and then you'll have your secondary colors that you can use on other projects, but you use them with less emphasis. It has the fonts that you're going to use, and the fonts that your logo is made of, but the body text and everything is usually not the font that you're using on the logo. It's usually something different, so it helps to make your logo stand out. So it's got fonts, colors, and then it has a style guide that says, here's the way all of your photographs should be. And maybe they have additional hue and saturation so that the colors pop. Or maybe there's a white outline around me. Or maybe I'm never looking at the camera, I'm always looking somewhere else, right? But you have that description in there on how photography should happen. You'll do the same for video. And then we'll usually end with what your email signature should look like for the company. So it'll have your name, and you don't want to put graphics in there because it'll have to load graphics, so you want to spell things out. It's very technical, and then everybody needs to follow it.
Yeah, we have at Visit California, we have a style guide. I would call it kind of our Bible in terms of anything that looks nice. So if you're creating a formal letter or writing an email or giving a presentation somewhere, the PowerPoint, the Word doc, the email must always align with this kind of graphic design Bible. Like, you must stick to the rules, the rule book.
You must stick to the rules.
Yeah.
You can't introduce a new color.
Yeah.
If you have 6 colors in the style guide and you want to use purple, you can't. It's not one of the colors. Figure it out. It's like, this is your toolkit, and you don't get to add any new tools to it. You got to use these tools.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm thinking about it from kind of a big business perspective. It's just something we are emailed from the graphic design team annually. Sometimes there are like little minor hiccups or changes year to year, but it is something that we're expected to use across the board. It's a way to keep everyone on brand, right?
Right. When you have a bunch of departments that are all doing different things, right? How do you manage your brand consistency? You have to do it with a style guide, and then everybody has to follow it. Yeah. So if you're in graphic design, you're going to probably be asked to create a style guide. You should look it up and see what some of the samples look like.
Yeah, it's cool. That's a great example of how graphic design fits into the larger puzzle of the big marketing plan. It goes clear into, at Visit California, into our television advertising spots. They are on track with, so it's everything from your email clear up to like a paid advertising.
Your website, you would take your style guide, and if you were designing a website, you'd be looking at that style guide. You're using all those colors, you're using those fonts, you're using those photos, you're using the layouts, and in many there will be icons that are designed for use. Like in the Uptown Studios, we have all of the icons that are used for all of the teams that we have. And we want people to use them.
Yeah. It's fun to think about, because we've got a couple students interested in graphic design. It's fun to think about how important their role is. That's exciting to share with them. So the last thing I will ask you, you kind of talked a little bit about it, but we're getting close on time. I know, I'm sorry. So what advice do you have for someone interested in working in marketing or specifically in graphic design?
So the most important thing is get an internship if you can. It's really hard to get internships, really, really hard. The people that get hired usually know somebody. If you know that I'm on a certain panel, or I'm presenting somewhere, or I am doing a training that's free, you want to get in there and you want to ask questions. Your whole job is to get me to recognize who you are, and that's really hard because I have a lot of people that are on me. It's like, I want a job, it's like, well, your resume and your portfolio has to be spectacular. Yeah. And the only way that you're going to get moved to the top of the list is if you know somebody at the company. Mm-hmm. I mean, relationships are still the main decider on if you're going to get picked for an interview or if I'm even going to read your resume. If I don't know you and nobody at my company knows you, you have to have a stellar portfolio. And don't just send me a resume, send me a letter that talks about you and how much you looked at Uptown Studios and how awesome we are and what a cool company it would be if you worked there. It's like, you need to do the, ooh, I love you, I love you, I love you. You need to get big in your personality and show it to the people that you're talking to so that you can go to the next step. So a personal letter along with your resume. If you send an email or you click on my link on the page and you say, do you have any openings? It's like, no, I don't have any openings for you. Why would I?
You. Yeah.
I don't know you. If you have a typo in your resume, I don't care how good you are, I'm throwing you out. Yeah. It's like, oh, it has to be really good. And you want to have people check it before you send it. So have people review your stuff. It's really hard to get a job at some of the better places, because they're better because they pick the best. A lot of times it's about the culture. You could be an okay designer with an awesome personality that's going to fit really well with our culture, and you're going to get a chance at it because people working together is really important. There's so many factors. Internships. If you can't get an internship, find a nonprofit that you really are passionate about and call the president of the board and say, I'm a student in marketing and I would love to work with your marketing committee. You go into the committee, there's 20 people that all work at corporations and they get to know you. And you're going to get to do some work. They're going to give you some work to do. So donate your time if you can't get an internship with a nonprofit.
Yep.
It's a great way to great way to get your hours in.
I love that advice. Volunteer. If you can't be paid to do some work for someone, volunteer. It gives you a second look. Yep, I've given that advice too. I like it. Okay, well, I'm over on time. I'm sorry we're taking so much of your time up, but I appreciate you jumping on. I'm going to share a link with you once this is posted, and a big thanks from me and from my students. I really appreciate you sharing your insights.
Sure. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.